3, 2, 1.
Wasn't where it was one clap?
1 clap.
So late. I'm so sorry.
Sandal!
All right, here we go. I got it this time.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome, feathered friends and bird nerds, to Raptor Radio, the podcast soaring high above the rest. Get ready to sink your talons into all things American Eagle Foundation and all things Raptor. From majestic eagles to charismatic corvids, we'll be providing you with updates from our roost while educating about the wide, wild world of raptors. The sky's the limit for our host's passion for magnificent birds of prey. Leading us in this endeavor are your hosts, Dr. Robin Miller and Crystal Slusher.
Hello, avian academics, to episode 5 of Raptor Radio. My favorite thing about the show, Ryan, is the fact that I get to hang out with cool people. Unfortunately, Crystal is absent today, which is not to imply that she isn't cool. In fact, just the opposite. She is super cool, and I'm sad she's not here. But instead, I am joined by 2 of our amazing staff from Wings of America at Dollywood. Before we dive into that, I think it's fitting to start by giving a shout out to the one and only challenger, the bald eagle.
Absolutely.
His birthday was on April 22nd, Earth Day. It's a really easy birthday to remember, and he is celebrating his 35th birthday, which is a huge accomplishment. Challenger, of course, has retired from free-flighted programs, but he still serves as an educational ambassador during more personal, gloved programs and still has a tremendous effect on bald eagle conservation. If you want to learn more about Challenger, you could visit our website, but the man, the myth, the legend kind of speaks for himself.
That's right.
And, of course, you could always book a tour to come see Challenger and the documentary featuring him in our museum. Beyond
Just a documentary. He's got a whole section.
Yeah, it's like an entire exhibit with a lot of sports memorabilia that really highlights just the depth and breadth of his wingspan, as it were. He is truly an inspiration to work with, and I couldn't wish him a happier birthday. So I am joined today by Alyssa and Sam. I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves in just a moment, but I know that we have some bird news to share from Wings of America. Alyssa, can you tell me more about that?
Love to. So we've actually had a really recent breakthrough with one of our birds. His name is Maverick, and he is an 18-year-old Harris's hawk that I work pretty closely with. And when I first started working with him, I became his primary about 2 years ago now. He was kind of struggling. He wasn't really working very well for a lot of people, and he was very fearful. So he was not really in shows, and he was just kind of stuck. So for the last 2 years, I've been working on really building up his confidence and getting him to work with a better variety of people and getting him back into our bird shows. And recently, as of a couple of weeks ago, he has started flying at our shows again. So he's doing some absolutely beautiful over-the-audience flights, and I could not be prouder of him.
You should be so proud and excited. Maverick is such a cool bird, and he has all the confidence and attitude that you'd expect with a bird of his name.
He's definitely helped me a lot as a trainer, too. He's interesting.
Yeah, and one of our black vultures from headquarters just rotated over to Wings of America, Bedlam. How is Bedlam doing?
Bedlam is precious. He has the best temperament for Wings of America. He's so calm. He loves being around people. He has a great disposition, and I'm really excited to see where that goes with him. I can really see him having a very bright future here with us.
And for those that don't know, Bedlam is a
Black vulture.
Okay.
He's very, very cute. I'm biased, as anyone who has spoken with me knows, my love for black vultures, so Bedlam is precious. I guess that's a good time to segue into the topic of today's show, which is, of course, Wings of America. That is our off-site location located in Dollywood Theme Park. And this staff does an incredible job of reaching out to the thousands of Dollywood guests daily and sharing the wondrous world of raptors with every guest that steps through the theme park. I'll give you guys the opportunity to introduce yourselves now. Let's start with you, Alyssa. Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Alyssa. I am the team lead over at Wings of America.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's me.
And how did you end up at Wings of America?
So it's actually kind of a funny story. So Brad, one of our rehab specialists, he actually gave a presentation to my college class about 4 years ago. He doesn't know this, by the way, so this will be fun for him. And he was just talking all about what his job is like over at the American Eagle Foundation. I kind of got it in my head that that's where I wanted to be. So about 6 months after I graduated, just so happened that a position popped up. So I jumped on that immediately, and I moved from North Carolina to Tennessee. And I've been very happy ever since.
We're very lucky to have you on staff. That's awesome. I hope Brad listens to this. I'm going to tell him. Oh, I hope he doesn't. Okay.
Shout out, Brad.
Shout out to Brad.
Shout out to Brad Skinner, Wings of America host for many, many years before transitioning over to our rehab department. And he was on our very first episode, in fact. So it's kind of like a full circle moment for episode 5. Sam, who are you? Why are you here?
My name's Sam. I've been at Wings America I'm coming up on a year now. I've been there 10 months, I think. So
Awesome.
I know.
I can't believe it's already been a year.
I started as an intern over the summer because I'm a junior at University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Go Bulls. Go. That's what I'm talking about. So I actually grew up in Pigeon Forge, and so I've been to Dollywood, can't tell you how many times, and 99% of the times I went, it was solely for Wings of America. So I grew up watching that show, Lord knows how many times, and so when a internship came up, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to do this. So I applied, I started, and I never left. So I'm still here. I love it. I love talking to the public. I love getting to show these amazing birds. And that's my story.
We're so glad you're here, too. I remember when you were an intern, we were already making plans of stealing you. So I'm really glad those plans.
I'm glad they worked out. Yeah.
I remember talking to you about that during a show, and you were just like, we have to keep him.
Yeah.
I remember getting the email for like, hey, you want a seasonal position? And the 2 people I was working with were like, yeah, we knew. So I was like, thank you guys for telling me.
They just wanted to see the look on you.
They did, yeah. And it was a look.
So it sounds like Wings of America was kind of a central part of your childhood.
Oh, totally. Like, I even remember one time in middle school, I got to go to like a backstage tour of Wings of America.
Whoa.
And I actually printed out those pictures, and it was like on the cover of my binder for all of middle school. And nerd, I know.
That's adorable.
And so now it's on the screensaver of my phone. So I didn't really grow up. So I'm still rocking the pictures.
Oh, that's awesome to hear.
So it's definitely been especially being an animal science student, wanting to go to vet school, getting to work with the man himself, Dr. Jones. It's so cool to be able to do it. I remember like giving the Eagle script on stage for the first time, and I was like, I'm not crying, guys. You're crying.
There's something in my eyes.
It's like, oh, you just don't mind me. So
Yeah.
it's been so cool.
Did you geek out and take a picture of yourself after doing
Oh,
the
100%.
Oh,
I didn't even do it. Alyssa was like, don't go anywhere. You're taking a picture.
Was that me?
That was all you.
I did not remember that.
Oh,
So I am forever grateful.
Aw.
I love the supportive energy. So we've mentioned Wings of America a few times. What exactly is Wings of America for those who may not be familiar with it?
So Wings of America is our secondary location inside of Dollywood's theme park in Pigeon Forge. And we have a little over a dozen birds that we use in our bird show. It's really cool. You should definitely come and see it for yourself. But basically, we do a free-flighted bird show where we bring a bunch of birds out, we teach you about them, and we also strive to give people the best possible up-close experience with them. Because, getting to see a bird in person and getting to make that connection with them is really what drives people to want to be involved in conservation. That's something that we're all very passionate about. So we do that. And on top of that, we are also home to Eagle Mountain Sanctuary, which is actually the largest eagle aviary and sanctuary in the United States. And we have 25 non-releasable bald eagles up on that hill, and they are also very helpful for our education platform.
That was so well said.
Thank you.
You practiced that, didn't you?
No.
Wow. I'm trying to think of questions to follow up on that. I'm like, she essentially hit. Oh,
Yeah, it's just really cool to be able to, like, people don't expect that when you go to Dollywood. They're thinking of rides, food, kind of that country atmosphere, and then they see, oh my gosh, there's 25 eagles on this hill. Oh my gosh, there's a bird show. And so it's really cool to have that, like, they didn't expect that at all, but then they leave kind of with a new mindset about conservation. There's never another show that's exactly like another one. I mean, you ride Wild Eagle so many times, love Wild Eagle, but like it's the same ride, but no show is the same. You never know like what's going to happen, what goofy thing is going to happen.
Different birds, different combinations of hosts, different behaviors from the birds, because sometimes they add their flourishes to the show, whether we're prepared for it or not. So it is truly an incredible experience. I remember my first show when I was thinking about applying to work with American Eagle Foundation, and Lily, the turkey vulture, slapped me in the face with her wing as she flew overhead, and I was immediately in love. So it's truly incredible work that you do, inspiring thousands each year, connecting with the public, making those meaningful memories worth repeating, as Dollywood likes to say. So how long has Wings of America been a central part of Dollywood?
So it's been at Dollywood since 1991. So we just celebrated 33 years back in, I think, March or April. So it's been there a long time, and it's definitely like developed a lot. And so we can tell like how much of an impact it's had on Dollywood and people that have come back year after year, because people will come up and say, oh, I was here back in 2005 or even like back in the 90s. And like, it's so cool that y'all are still doing this. So it's been there a while, but it's definitely, in my opinion, like a big part of Dollywood.
Yeah, and we've had some birds that have been there almost from the very beginning. And that's one thing I remember from the brief time that I used to do shows, is people would come up and ask about George. He hatched in 1985 and was one of the original Wings of America turkey vultures. And it's neat to see them connecting with birds and remembering them by name. I'm also, of course, thinking of Tuck, which is why I'm looking at you, Alyssa.
That's my
There we go.
Yeah. So Tuck is our African pied crow, and he is absolutely a fan favorite in our shows. He does so many different things. He's most well known for collecting donations at the end of our shows. So he will take dollar bills from our guests and put them away in a little money box, which is adorable and also such a big help for us. But he also knows how to paint, which I'm working on getting him to paint during shows so that he can paint with people, which is adorable. He also knows his colors. Well, he's learning his colors. He's really stumped by the color blue right now, but we're getting there. And he also knows how to pick out specific toys during the show. And all of those things involve the audience. So people really like form that connection with Tuck, and they'll come back to ask specifically for Tuck. That sometimes people will come to the shows specifically for him because they saw him, 10 years ago? And he just made that much of an impression to them that they wanted to come back and see him again, which is so special.
I've never pulled money out of my wallet faster than the first time I saw Tuck strut out on stage. It is truly a precious experience to see him do that. Though it's a little tough when you're one of the hosts and it's a show where Tuck is not in it because, he rotates through. We want to give our birds breaks.
Yeah.
And you don't get as many donations. That's prior Tuck. Yeah.
For some reason, we don't get as many donations as Tuck does. Like us trying to sell it just isn't the same.
It's almost like we're not as cute or something. Yeah.
It's a shame.
It's hard to resist Tuck's charm. He can also talk.
Yes, he can, yeah. He also likes to say things in a British accent now, which is interesting since none of us are British, but...
Are you referring to the what?
Yeah, that. He also, how he says his hi Tuck and hello?
Yeah.
He said that in a British accent the other day.
I've heard that.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So just drop the H hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I have expected him to add on a governor or something.
I apologize to any folks that may be listening to us. Absolutely butcher this accent. We're imitating the bird. We're not imitating you.
You just taught him how to recycle, too.
Yes, he does also know how to recycle. That one's not in our shows yet, but we're hoping that we can bring that in as a routine for him, just because it gives him a bit of stimulation doing different things, but also recycling is one of the easiest conservation messages you can have. Like, anyone and everyone can recycle.
One of my favorite things about Tuck is a behavior that people don't even see. It's like his assist with medical help behaviors. So he does like a foot touch, voluntary foot touch, voluntary kill check. It's kind of it's the cutest thing, honestly. But it's something that people don't get to see normally, but I think it's just the coolest thing.
That is really awesome. Initially, when you said that, I imagined Tuck running at you with a first aid kit.
That's good. Yes, he's training first aid.
The Sam fell down the well again, Tuck.
Someone call Tuck.
He's got the little barrel around his neck.
Yeah, he's like how dogs can jump on their own for CPR. He's learned how to do that.
We do have some other long-term Wings of America superstars still over there, like Jessie and Buzz.
You know I've been dying to talk about Buzz. Buzz is my favorite bird here. She is, I believe, 36 this year, so she's coming up on 40, which is a huge accomplishment again, because if you think about their lifespan in the wild, it's half that. But under human care, since they have access to veterinary care and medications and like quality food and vitamins, we can sometimes double that, which is where she's at now. And she acts like she is 2 years old. I don't know if I said it, she's a black vulture. And she has been flying on our shows for years and years and years. She also does beautiful over-the-audience flights, and she's so spunky. She has so much energy. She's my favorite by far.
She's the only black vulture that I've ever met that blushes the way she does. It is so precious. When Buzz likes someone, she will blush for them. So her beautiful gray head will turn slightly pinkish. And she also makes like a purring sound.
Yeah. So Buzz was actually the first bird that I became a primary trainer for when I started here at Wings of America. And I put so much work into just forming that relationship with her, because she's one where it takes a really long time to build that relationship and get that trust built with her, because she can be a bit more reserved. She doesn't really acclimate super well to new people. So I just took a lot of time building that relationship, and it paid off so well. We have the best relationship. Whenever I go in the morning and say good morning to her, her face literally just goes bright pink every morning, and it is precious. But because I've built that relationship with her, it's also opened so many doors for training that she hadn't had before. So similarly to Tuck, I also taught her how to paint. She likes to make little finger paintings, and she is also learning her colors. She is currently being stumped by the color yellow. And I've also been working on a lot of medical behaviors with her. So she also knows a voluntary keel check, voluntary foot check, and I'm hoping to do a voluntary feather check where she will learn how to spread her wings on a cue and hold still. That way we can examine the condition of her feathers and just make sure that all is well for her. So I'm really proud of the progress she's made. So yeah, that's a really cool cooperative care behavior that I've been working on with her, not only just as a medical behavior, but it also could potentially be a really cool thing to use in our programs, because typically whenever people see a vulture with their wings spread out in the wild, they think that that vulture is just waiting on something to die. But in reality, it could be them sunning, it could be them straightening out their feathers. It even kills bacteria sometimes. So I would love to get that in our shows.
If and when you do, let me know. I will show up with bells on in the audience just to see Buzz spread her wings for an audience.
Absolutely.
That'd be super cool. In addition to Buzz being one of our OG showbirds, we also have Jessie, the red-tailed hawk.
Jessie is one of my all-time favorite birds. She's one of the first birds I ever got to handle. She's 26 years old, I want to say, this year. And she is like the chillest bird you'll ever meet. I remember like one of my first days of internship, Brad kind of threw me in. He was like, go get Jessie, because she's very scary. I like just looking at her. But once I walked in, I just popped my glove and she stepped right up and she was so chill on the glove. She can get a little bit spunky in shows because one of the cool things we do is we play the red-tailed hawk call before we walk out with her, because a lot of people think that it's a bald eagle or a vulture because of movies. But when they see Jessie, they're like, oh, didn't know that was red-tailed hawk. But Jessie kind of takes it on her own path and she'll do the call in person, and it's either right in my ear or in my mic. It's very loud. But she has to let him know, and I'm like, you go, girl. You tell him. She's also very smart, so she does a flight routine where she actually flies from a wall on stage down to the middle of the stage, whoever's down stage. I keep saying stage, but she also does targeting behavior, so she'll put her beak right on a little stick and ball that we've got, and that's actually serves for like training, but it also serves for medical because she has eye drops that she needs. So when she holds her head still, we can use those eye drops and get them in easily. So Jessie is just the sweetest child.
She's also stunning. She is one of the most gorgeous red-tailed hawks I've seen, hands down. Their plumage varies dramatically from individual to individual, and Jessie has some beautiful feathers. She gets eye drops because, just like us, when birds mature, they tend to develop cataracts and other visual issues. So I assume the eye drops are to help with that.
So Jessie isn't currently getting eye drops at the moment, but she does have cataracts. And as birds mature, as they get older, you might need more cooperative care behaviors. So we like to be proactive about things like that. That way we can go ahead and establish that behavior before we need it. That way we don't have to go through trying to train that behavior and trying to introduce new objects to her when she already has a loss of vision. So we're just working to be proactive about that. So if she does ever get to the point where she needs more care, then we're set up and we're ready to go, and it's very low stress for her.
That's amazing work. And I'm so glad you're talking about all the cooperative care behaviors, because we touched on that a little bit last episode. So it just goes to show how it's part of our culture and part of our avian care philosophy at all levels. What I want to transition to a little bit now is talking about what exactly makes a showbird, because we've spoken about birds in their 20s, 30s, that have been doing shows forever. But how about the newer birds that are up and coming? What are you doing to prepare them to become a Wings of America superstar?
I'm glad you brought that up, because we do actually have a few new showbirds. We're really trying to get more diversity into our shows. So we have a few different species, one of which being Rocky, our Merlin, which is the coolest thing ever just to, work with, let alone use in programs. But when you're bringing in new birds, I would say the first thing you want to look at is their temperament. Is this bird calm around people? Are they calm around crowds? And since we're in Dollywood and there's things going on all the time, there's lights, there's crowds, there's different smells, like there's just constantly things going on around you. You need to think, is this bird able to be calm and consistent in an environment that may not be?
Yeah, so their ability to train in chaos.
Pretty much.
We always try to train them first when there's no people around and kind of work our way up. So for example, over the off season, you were flying Mav a lot over the stands where there was no one there. Mm-hmm. And so now that he's used to that, we add like 2 or 3 people in there, add more and more people, and now he's doing beautifully when there's 200 plus people in there.
I flew the other day when there were like 400 people in the audience, and I was like mind blown. It was like such an accomplishment for me as a trainer.
That is huge. Go you and go Maverick.
If only he'd do it for me.
Our birds can be a little picky.
Yeah, we talked a little bit of how the birds choose their humans here, and Maverick is especially selective and seems to prefer women. Sorry, Sam.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
He has been doing really well for Brad, though, recently, which it's awesome to have that diversity.
Womp womp.
Womp womp.
Maybe it's me. Maybe he's just trying to tell me something.
That's why we're trying to get to the point.
Yeah, this was the whole reason y'all brought me here. To break it to me lightly. Yeah. I think for showbirds, it also goes as you have to think about the trust that you have, and the trust goes both ways. So Lily, our turkey vulture, for example, I feel like if we're flying her in a show and I'm not being very trusting of her, if I'm nervous thinking about, oh, what if she flies off? What if she hits someone? Then I feel like she's going to sense that, and then she starts kind of flying wonky. But if I have super confidence in her, super confidence in myself, then she flies a lot better. And, I have to have that trust in her and her training that she won't fly off. But I also need to know that if and when she does fly off, we've got measures to make sure that we can get her back.
That relationship also helps, because if you have a good relationship with that bird, they're going to come right back down to you because they know that you have a great relationship, and it's more reinforcing for them to come to you than to be wherever they may land.
It's also knowing about when it's become too much. Sometimes the bird's just having a bad day and you get out on stage and they're just like, nope, not having it today. And so it's good to know and recognize when, like, okay, need to cut this short, try again another day.
So that relationship is as much about trust, but also being able to read one another. I'm hearing, because like if you're confident, she's confident, you're also picking up on the kind of day the bird is having. I think it's powerful to know that just like us, they occasionally aren't feeling the day. Maybe they need more avian coffee, or rats, I guess, would be their equivalent of that.
Avian coffee.
Woke up on the wrong side of the perch. So I think that's one of my other favorite things that maybe the public doesn't get to know as much about Wings of America, is that when you're scheduling out shows for the day, who's going to be in what show, it's very much based on where the individual birds are that day.
Exactly. Building off of what Sam said about free flying, it really is such a big step for you as a trainer, because you're putting so much trust into that bird to do what you're asking them to do. So not only are they taking a leap, but you are as well in a sense. And it's really rewarding to be able to see that in action, because something that I don't think a lot of people realize is that birds pick up on these smallest things. Like sometimes everything looks completely normal to us, but to them, they see the smallest little thing in the corner and it might be scary to them, and you would never notice that. So in a sense, it's on you to read them and try to figure out what the stressor is, see if you can work through it or see if you can remove it. And that also does wonders for your relationship.
There's those mental considerations we have to take on a given day, but then there's also physical ones, like weight is a big one. If they are super chunky and not hungry at all, and we try to get them to fly across the stage and they're full, don't want food, they're going to say, well, why would I do that? Yeah. And they may not. So we always take into consideration weights. That's why we've got target weights for all the birds, to where they're not hungry, but they will happily take food by flying across the stage.
Just like us, we wouldn't want to exercise after chowing down
exactly.
chips and salsa.
I love Chick-fil-A after the gym.
Yeah.
I have no reason to go to the gym if I don't get Chick-fil-A.
So I always like to think of you guys as training these birds for their athleticism as much as their health, because free flying is exercise, and it's something that the audience gets to participate in by having the bird fly over their heads. Lily the turkey vulture is one of my favorite free-flying birds for that reason, because she almost makes it a personal challenge to fly as low as possible with those massive turkey vulture wings.
We even say that in the ship.
Yes.
We're always like, don't duck. She takes it as a challenge.
Yeah.
And they never listen.
They never listen, and they always learn the hard way.
Yep.
And she always sneaks up on at least 5 people per show.
Yeah.
I don't know how she manages to do it, because she's a big bird, but they are startled, and that's something that they are certainly not going to forget.
Lily is by far my favorite script to do, because in her script, it's so much of it's not me just talking to people. In that script, they're all in on it. Like, we're all kind of doing this together, because she flies so low, and people are like, even the information that you're talking about, because vultures are a species that some people have very negative thoughts about, but then when you're having fun, I hope you're having fun, not just scared, but when like a vulture is flying super close to you and you're hearing about all these good things that they do, everyone's having a great time, and that's why it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, and that's probably the closest that they've ever gotten.
It's probably the closest you could ever get.
Yeah, that's as close as you could get. You're right. Face to armpit of a turkey vulture, just about.
There'll be, I one time she took a hat off someone, and I was like, gotcha.
Yeah.
And she'll scrape people's heads. I'm like, you sat in that seat. You knew what was happening.
She'll split people sometimes. She'll keep her wings narrow and then open them.
Oh, yeah.
She goes over the audience, so people have to like completely duck to get out of her way. It's so funny.
It can also be intimidating when she's coming at you because she comes in hot.
She does.
She does like a 180 at the last second. And it took me a while because back in the day when I first started working with her, I had to be like, if the camera can see, I had to be like out here because she would come in so hot. But what she would also do is because we didn't have the best relationship, she would intentionally choose violence and come down and start biting my arm. And I just kind of had to take a stone face and be like, so this is literally the turkey vulture. And then eventually she'd just fly on. But now
The show must go on.
the show must go on, but now we're best friends.
Yeah. And the nice thing about that is like vultures don't have a powerful beak. Their feet are incredibly weak.
It would be a
too.
different story if it was an eagle.
Yes. So that's just one of the joys, I guess, and challenges of working with vultures.
Yeah.
Occasionally they'll give you a vulture Charlie horse.
They'll keep you in check.
Yeah. So any other behind the scenes knowledge that you'd like to share? What are some things that go on behind the scenes at Wings of America with the birds, the staffs?
What do we do?
I think what a lot of people don't realize is that just because a bird flies in a show, that's not just what we do with them. We've got to do a bunch of behaviors to make sure that they keep that routine, that it's still very enriching for them. They're not getting bored with it. And that we're also trying to get them to learn new behaviors. Like Buzz does 2 or 3 shows a day, but you're still trying to do painting, color recognition, all sorts of stuff.
And like Robin said earlier, it's not necessarily just the fun behaviors like teaching them colors and painting, but cooperative care is a huge part of what we do. Whenever we have ambassador animals, typically they're non-releasable due to injury or illness. So that's always something that you have to think about on an individual basis. And you kind of have to strive to see how you can make their welfare the best that you possibly can while they're under your care. So that's something we're always researching, always striving to better. I know we're always sitting by the computer researching different things like enrichment or behaviors, husbandry. I feel like there's kind of a misconception about what we do since it is in a theme park setting. I feel like a lot of people come to the show thinking that it's just going to be birds doing things for entertainment. And people might have a negative outlook on our show at first because of that. But then they come to the show and they realize that every single bird we have has a story and there's a conservation message to go alongside that. So what we do isn't strictly for entertainment. Obviously, entertainment is a factor because it goes hand in hand with conservation messaging. But there's a bigger picture there, and it's that we're able to educate so many people about these animals and about how to help them because of those up close and personal encounters.
That's exactly what I was hoping to discuss with you next, because it is very much a conservation-based show. And if I had to pick one favorite thing that has changed in the scripts during my time here, even, it's the fact that you encourage the audience to become conservationists by the end of the show as well.
A lot of what people don't realize is that it's so easy to do. Like the conservation messages we give are very simple. Like, you can build a nest box. You can just simply not throw food scraps on the side of the road because that attracts wildlife into the street. In our Eastern Screech Owl script, we teach people how to pick up injured wildlife and how to take them to the closest professional. And we basically direct them on where to go with that animal. So everything we're talking about is very easy. You can do it from home. And like with our vultures, the easiest thing you can do is to just simply care about them.
That's what I was going to say. Just spreading the word about how important these animals are is kind of the biggest way to help them. Like at the end of the vulture script, we always say be a voice for vultures because it's the easiest thing to do, but it's also the best way to help them out.
I always enjoy seeing the revisions and the conscious changes that you make each year to the scripts as well, that kind of stay up to date with the current conservation issues that each species is facing. You almost throw in a conservation tidbit per species. And I think that's really powerful stuff because, as you say, people go to Dollywood expecting to have a fun family vacation day, hop on some coasters, and then they may leave with a completely changed perspective on these educational ambassadors that you guys do such phenomenal work with. And I hope you understand the monumental impact that has. I'm sure you do, just based on how both of you came to be with American Eagle Foundation to begin with. But If you think on just the thousands of people that come through that stage each year and hear your messaging and have these close encounters with the birds that you work to build trust with and seeing them perform so elegantly and so confidently, it's truly life-changing stuff.
That's why doing shows is so much fun, because at least I'm sure you feel this way too, but when I do a show, I try to make it as fun as possible. We're all having a good time, but I don't want it to be something where it's like, oh, that was a good way to kill 15 minutes, get out of the sun. I want it to be something where the next time they see a vulture, they think, oh, those stop disease spread. Or the next time you're lucky enough to see a bald eagle out in the wild, you say, wow, how lucky we are to have them back. Something that sticks with people.
I was literally about to say, like, just giving us our flowers for a minute, that I think we do a phenomenal job of presenting that information, but in a way that's still light. Like, it can be really hard whenever you have all of these animals with sad stories, because a lot of them, they did have a rough start. It can be hard to present that without people feeling like, oh my gosh, like, this is horrible, I feel powerless. But we're able to present it in a way where it's empowering almost, where we're giving them resources that they can use, but they're doable resources, and they still leave happy. They still feel excited after having Lily slap them in the head.
Best experience ever.
We tell a really fine line between like overwhelming people with information and presenting it in a way that's impactful but still fun. And I think we do a really good job of that.
My favorite thing throughout all shows is when we're doing the Screech Owl script, we've got these QR codes that you can scan on your phone to build a nest box. And the best feeling ever is when like everyone in the audience raises it up. I'm like, we did it.
Building habits.
Mission accomplished. Yep.
I feel that same way whenever we do the vulture plug for Bash and George's Instagrams. We like to end Lily and Buzz's script with plugs for George and Bash, of course. And as soon as it comes up on the screen, you just see the entire audience pull out their phone and take a picture.
That's awesome.
And I'm always like, yes, you want to learn more about vultures? You like vultures now.
That's so powerful, especially because like they are one of the more persecuted groups of birds, but they're also so essential to our ecosystem. One thing I want to clarify earlier, because I think you did a great job already of touching on it. We refer to them as scripts.
Yes.
But realistically, they're guidelines. I know we're encouraged to make them our own, to not just recite word for word what's on the page. And I think that's something that you guys do very, very well in shows, is that they're not just getting the conservation messaging, but they're getting the authentic you.
Yes.
You pour so much energy into every show, and you do 4 shows a day with 200 to 400 people in the audience for any given show. It's exhausting stuff. And I don't want to make light of the scripts or the work that you're putting into it by focusing so much on training.
Yeah, so we do kind of refer to scripts kind of like colloquially as scripts.
That's a big word for a podcast.
Colloquially.
It's a great word for a podcast.
Actually, yeah.
If we're going to change the name of the podcast
to colloquially Raptor Radio.
But they're not necessarily scripts. We do have bullet points for things that we want to talk about, just so that we make sure that we're really hitting home on the conservation messaging. But we pretty much just go out there. We talk about what we find interesting about that bird and about that species, and we refer back to that script to end. That way we make sure we're giving an appropriate conservation message and that it's factual.
People can kind of tap out if you are like clearly reciting a script.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more, you gather a lot more attention if you're being genuine. Like the way I found my script is by going out there and winging it and seeing what works. The first few times was not great, but I found what works.
Ryan hates bird puns, so thank you for that.
Oh, it's full of bird puns.
Oh, it is.
It doesn't always hit. Some of them are laughing out loud. Some of them are just kind of, I can, awkward. I love it.
One I've been dying to use, but I can't. I just,
What is it?
You can use it on this
I
podcast.
don't know if I can, but I really want to end Rocky's script by being like, I don't know about you, but I think he's pretty falcon cute. But Dollywood,
Dollywood would be the...
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to put that on some of our Talentines, but we didn't want children accidentally purchasing the Talentines and getting in trouble in schools. It's a great fun
Just once.
for the right audience. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. You have had so many wonderful things to say, and I do want to take this opportunity to give you guys your flowers because I could not be more appreciative of the fact that you're paving the way for what we're doing here at our new headquarters through your interaction with the public daily and by doing it in such an impactful and energetic way. Even if the the crunch of doing 4 shows a day is a challenge, you handle it with grace.
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure our community was aware of that too, because they may see you at a show in the not too distant future if they visit Dollywood. If you end up at these shows, be sure to say hi to your host and let them know a way that their show has impacted you. I don't think they get to hear it as often as they need to.
One of my absolute favorite things is when people come up after shows and share stories about birds that they've seen in the wild or how appreciative they are of these birds. And they'll say, like, thank you for what you do. And that's when it hits.
My favorite thing is whenever kids come up, I get so many kids that come up to me and they don't want pictures with the bird. They want pictures with us, which that is such like a superhero moment, it feels like.
It's a flex.
You also have to think about the fact that that could be a defining moment for them. That could be what like sparks that idea for them to work with animals or just care about them. And that's what keeps me going on rough days. So.
And even the funny moments.
Yeah.
I had one guy come up to me after a show and said, be honest, your name isn't really Sam, right?
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was like, what? And he said, I mean, you work with eagles, like Uncle Sam, like you're the eagle guy. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's what you were thinking of? Thank you, though.
I'm going to riff off of that the next time we do a show together.
God, I ruined my career.
Yeah, Rowan the bird nerd and Sam the eagle man.
And Uncle Sam, the eagle guy.
You gotta do shows introducing yourself like that.
I'm going to.
We've got to get him a hat.
Starting
Yeah.
out. Yep. Yep.
So we always like to round out our episodes by sharing a bird fact. I will let both of you go first.
I've got mine. Okay. So in humans and mammals, there's 2 sex chromosomes. We have an X and a Y. Females are XX and males are XY. In birds, their 2 sex chromosomes are Z and W. They're different than ours. And the cool thing is it's opposite because females are the ones that have different. They're ZW and males are ZZ. In mammals, it's the male who determines the sex of the offspring. But in egg-laying species like birds and reptiles, it's the female because they lay the egg.
That's so cool.
Ooh.
Made it for me.
My fact is a little less educational, but it is fun. So red-tailed hawks can actually launch their poop up to 6 feet away. So if you ever come to our bird show and Jessie is in the show, be careful.
So my bird fact is one that both of you are familiar with, and that is that owls can turn their heads 360 degrees. Once. Womp, womp, womp.
Womp womp.
Owls can turn their heads 270, 275 degrees. This allows them to better listen for their prey when silence is key because it's a lot noisier to turn your entire body. They do this by having twice as many vertebrae as people and mammals as a whole. So mammals have 7 vertebrae in their necks, whereas owls have 14. They also have a single pivot point and special adaptations to their blood vessels that prevent it from being constricted by the head-turning motion. So owls are pretty cool that way. Anyway, now that I've geeked out, that's a wrap for this episode of Raptor Radio. Thank you so much, Sam and Alyssa, for joining us today. I did an awkward head turn during that. I'm going to take
You turned your head 270 degrees for them.
it both times. I hope that you'll be back for episodes in the future because it was truly a delight. For those of you at home, thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll listen again in the future. You're able to find out more about who we are and what we do at eagles.org. Of course, you can buy tickets to Dollywood to see our Wings of America show and Eagle Mountain Sanctuary and hopefully say hi to our amazing hosts. You can also book a tour with us at our headquarters in Kodak by visiting eagles.org. We're open for tours, field trips, special events, even bird day parties, and we hope you'll join us here. If you're listening to this, then you already know that you can find us wherever you choose to listen to podcasts, be that YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or even Google. If you wouldn't mind, it would be of great help to us if you could rate and review us wherever you're listening to us so we know how we're doing and you can help get the bird word out into the world. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.